Kaboom! My name is King Legacy, the 7-star general, the host of Yard Settings on Selassie Radio, an award winner as well, an MC for Legacy Sound International. Ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens, tune into the Lion Voice, because time to tell our own story. So are you me, man? The lion coming on and boom and tell its own story. Africa and the world. Tune in, Lion Voice.
What do you have to tell the people about Rastafari?
Light to the world. King of kings and the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. I like himself. Where's rightful ruler? Hey yo! Yeah. Hail them high, hail the black king, born the 23rd of July. So tell them guy, who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your night. From ancient time, them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them come without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill. The lion will come conquer Judah tribe. Go through tribulation, I strive, see sufferation, I still rise. That's why we tell them, in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come if you tell them, in a Toronto, straight to Ethiopia.
We're talking about I-tal versus vegan, because a lot of people would use them interchangeably, but that is not the case. We cannot use these things interchangeably because I-tal and vegan are two different things. And I want to just big up the Association of Rastafari Creatives. One of the things that we have determined within the Association of Rastafari Creatives is that farmers are creatives. So we're looking at food security, food sovereignty, and I'm going to have some guests on Lion Talk where we're going to get strictly into the agriculture. We're going to start that reasoning on African liberation because we can't stop. We're going to start that reasoning on African Liberation Day because we cannot talk about African liberation without talking about food security, food sovereignty. You cannot be free. If you feed the people, you can free the people. You know what I mean? You cannot be free if you're getting your food supply by a third party. So on our 100th episode, we are going to be reasoning live. We're going to be doing our first YouTube live with Dr. Kadamawi Knife, one of my bona fide brethren along this journey. Again, I tell people my superpower is my network, and I've only scratched the surface with this platform. This is why I know this platform will be successful and become the largest Rastafari platform on the second largest search engine on the planet, because I know the network, and I know once we start really touching base, because Rastafari is global, we have not tapped into our potential, and the type of content that we have to produce, where we're looking forward, where we're talking about the building of Zion, where we're solution based. There are not a lot of that. There's not a lot of that happening. A lot of time we tend to talk about history, we talk about politics, we talk about things in general. But even this conversation about I-tal, I'm gonna frame it in the building of Zion moving forward, because we say forward ever, backward never. Big up Kwame Nkrumah. My thing with Rastafari that I love and that attracted I is not the historical, although I study the history. My thing with Rastafari is the building of Zion. That's what gets I man excited. The creation of a new reality, building that alternative, utilizing, and we're not talking about reinventing the wheel, because there's nothing new under the sun. It's a reimagining of the existing, how we can put things together creatively to make them sustainable. We're done with monoculture, for example. We say permaculture. You know what I mean? All of these things, food forests. You saw when we had the Kwaku Ando Sustainability Institute, you saw that there was an indigenous food forest, there's a regular food forest. So these are things that are being implemented, The proof of concepts are being developed actively, and this is what I want to use this platform to bring forward, because I think that we have reached a certain level of stagnation within the movement, as our legendary elders have passed away. We went through a little period of kind of wandering in the wilderness, but now we give thanks. Fire angels are rising all over creation. Repatriation is on the agenda again, because for a while the thing kind of get lukewarm around repatriation, but I give thanks when I'm trotting to Ghana, when I'm trotting to Ethiopia. We know ones who are doing works in Ethiopia, in Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, trotting Tanzania. Big up, and we're going to be having a repatriation summit with the Universal Development of Rastafari. I haven't even started talking about IDOR, of which I'm a founding member, but repatriation summit. There's a lot of work, trust me, family. But let's go into the topic, because there's no end to reasoning in Zion, only continuation. What are we talking about? We're talking about Ital versus vegan. First of all, what is Ital? I have the honor and the privilege of living with the brethren who created the word sound Ital, one of our Rastafari elders, Ras Iris. And I recently had a reasoning with him, because all of this reasoning around Ital, creating an Ital standard, which is something that we'll also talk about on this channel. I'm actively involved in this work. Doing some of this work, we have to go back to the origins and the source of where this came from. And when I reasoned with the elder Ras Iris, he said that the word Ital really derived from the word natural. And he gave the origin of how they started trotting Ital, because in the early days, most of the elders were fishermen. They ate fish, different things, you know what I mean? This is Jamaica is an island, so they weren't necessarily what we would consider strictly plant-based in the early days. He gave the story of being harassed by the police forces. The police forces came to look for him. He was there on Paradise Street, police come look for him, and so he made a trot up into Warker Hills. And of course, because he had to keep a very camouflage profile, become a mountain lion, he wasn't coming down, so of course cut off access to the fish. So they started to feed on all of the fruits. He said that the mountain was full of fruit trees, guava, papaya, all these things. So they started feast on the fruit trees, and they didn't have salt, they didn't have certain things up there. So the Ital Liberty, that camp in Warwicker Hill, and this is in the 50s that we're talking about, that these things are occurring. Now, before this, I want to be clear. People were plant-based before that. I'm not saying that plant-based comes from, I'm talking about the origin of the word sound Ital, where we, the inspiration, that light bulb moment where a word sound come to connect with a way of life. Because plant-based liberty is from the foundation of creation. When you look at in the garden before, even in the biblical account, before Adam and Eve start eat flesh, they were plant-based, eating from the garden until, fall from grace. We look at most different cultures, you're gonna see there are aspects of the culture that is plant-based in origin. Daniel in the lion's den, no meat, nah go eat the king's meat, them thing there, So all of these things we know, whether it's Kemet, whether it's Ethiopia, whether it's Kush, you would have always had ones who are plant-based going back to the before recorded times. So I want to be clear, but the word sound Ital is a modern manifestation which encapsulates. So when we talk about Ital, we're talking about a plant-based way of living, way of thinking, that is closest to nature. The word vital, Ital is vital, so vital become a part of the definition in terms of, yes, if it's natural, it's vital. And the way of Ital living is trying to keep things as close to their natural state as possible. So there are degrees of Ital then. So, you know, because I-tal can also allow for a certain level of processing. Because think of this, if you're cooking things, it's certain level of processing. You know, if you're bubbling an I-tal pot, then you cook down your coconut milk and certain things. That's a certain level of combining and processing. As opposed to you have levels where you have the raw I-tal. And my guest on Lion Talk Live, Kadamawi Knife, is one of the preeminent brethren where pure live sip. You know what I mean? When I met that brethren over 20 years ago, up at the University of the West Indies, I'm chat up at the brethren Taylor Hall, you know, and seat up and every man get them steam chalice, and you know, them time there the solar dryer was there and drying up jackfruit, you know what I mean, drying up papaya, all kind of banana, and brethren was sharing these things with I, and trust me, you never taste. That's how I come to love jackfruit. That probably was my first real interaction with jackfruit, to be honest, you know, because I didn't grow up eating jackfruit as a youth. We grew up most of my life in foreign, you know what I mean, in Canada, Toronto. So that was really my first interaction. So I have to go make knife know say. What is important is that we understand that this is a way of life. So I-tal is again least bit of processing. It's also higher than organic standard, because there can be no, you know, with organic you can use things like pig's blood, you can, you know what I mean, there's different things. So I-tal would be completely plant-based, compost. Now you know, some ones would use things like bat guana, but again it's processed. You know, the plant has been processed through the animal's stomach. So, you know, the natural fertilizer and these things, in most cases, could probably still be considered I-tal. But again, there's levels to the I-tal, because, you know, you also have plant-based compost, which, you know, is not processed through the animal, but processed in a compost heap. And things, but even that, you know, you have worms and things, so it's still going through processing. So I-tal doesn't mean completely free from processing, but again, it's as close to nature and natural processes as possible. Then when we're talking about I-tal, living in balance and harmony with nature, this would be the I-tal live. Vegan now, let's talk about vegan. Vegan is just plant-based. You know what I mean? So I-tal would meet the vegan standard, but vegan wouldn't necessarily meet the I-tal standard. For example, you couldn't have vegan, you can have vegan pepperoni. You couldn't have I-tal pepperoni. You know what I mean? You couldn't have I-tal bacon.
Them could never conquer the mountains. Thousands of years and counting. Ethiopia rise again unto the world. Now we are announcing. Them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see them wanna go dismantle the base. When the trumpet sound and the violence cease, how we say one go build up the cities. Well, them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see them wanna go dismantle the base. Rastafari crown as the Prince of Peace. Him tell the youths them fi build up them countries. Well, solar energy that them a see. The whole city powered by the sun's energy. The road them make out of hemp and concrete. Neighborhoods full of fruit trees that taste sweet. The youths put down them guns, them harvest and a reap. The beautiful gardens will line every street. Tired of the bloodshed, them done with the beef. Not even animals for that, them burn out the meat. Where people say Haile Selassie, I see Nile. When they see say him a treat the dirt like a child. Peace on earth from the banks of the Nile. That's why we giving thanks in style. See say Babylon a weapon, them a stockpile. Babylon a wicked, kill them brother and smile. Lion, Babylon a reptile. Them a plan for shed blood, we got plans for the soil. Them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see them wanna go dismantle the base. When the trumpet sound and the violence cease, how we say one go build up the cities. Well, them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see them wanna go dismantle the base. Rastafari crown as the Prince of Peace. Him tell the youths them fi build up them countries. No more gullies, proper sanitation. Proper toilets with proper filtration. Clean water for the youths them fi use. Our sons and daughters safe, no more child abuse. Africa arise, read it in the news. On the day when Rastafari ready, wicked have fi move.